Hello, Talk Funders. Today we're talking to Dan from Occuity, who are developing innovative optical technologies and products which are creating solutions to some of humanity's greatest healthcare challenges. Sounds absolutely amazing, doesn't it? So let's go. Let's get on with the show. Hello, Talk Funders. Today we're talking to Dan from Occuity. Hello there, my friend. How are you?
Hi there, good to meet you.
Dan, I'm just going to read out this really lovely statement that you have just below the Cedars, your title on Cedars, which is creating solutions to some of humanity's greatest healthcare challenges through the development of innovative optical technologies and products. Dan, I must admit that is really aligned to TALKFUNDING's mission statement of global sustainable peace now, where the whole intention is to help people. And clearly, Occuity are really on a big mission to help humanity, which I think is absolutely remarkable. And I'm really looking forward to doing this interview with you today. I mean, some of the solutions you have and you're going to develop over the next decade are just going to be remarkable and are really going to be a big help to humanity. So thank you very much for yourself and your team for your service and for the products that you're creating. So listen, Dan, I'm really in one sense really going to have to hand it over to you because there's so many moving parts to the Occuity's offer here on Cedars, and the links to the Cedars campaign will be in the video description below. And you've really already hit the target. I see, Dan, you're 128% over your goal. So well done for that. Dan, listen, let's just look at this. Can we just really talk about about creating solutions and just broad stroke it at the moment, just as an introduction to Occuity about creating solutions.
So at Occuity, we've got a technique, a very clever technique for making measurements on the eye. But rather than touching the eye as many machines do, we just shine a light into the eye, take the reflection back out from the eye, analyze that, and know more of what's going on. If you're measuring the eye, the first thing you get, of course, is information about the eye itself, information about the lens or the cornea or the aqueous humor or whatever. And that information is useful for opticians and optometrists to do their jobs. But also there are many health conditions, diabetes being one, Alzheimer's being another, where you get markers left in the eye which tell you something about that condition. So our next product, building on from the optometry ones, is a device for screening for diabetes. And some of the numbers we've got shown here are phenomenal. Diabetes is a major global problem, and it's our first target. There's something like 460 million people throughout the world with diabetes, and a similar kind of number with pre-diabetes. And the issue is they're all having their bodies damaged by that condition because they're not controlling it well enough. What we're doing is looking for techniques for screening in the first instance, so finding people who are pre-diabetic and preventing them becoming fully diabetic, and those who are diabetic making their measurement of glucose much more comfortable. So it's an opportunity there which is globally in scale. It's hundreds of millions of people are being affected by this, and a market that's worth in the tens of billions. So a very attractive opportunity commercially, but also, as you're saying, in terms of healthcare, you want to make people's lives better. And that's what we're aiming for. We want to make people who are with diabetes, make their testing more comfortable, or those who are heading on the trajectory to getting diabetes, preventing them going on that journey. So it's, the benefits here are global, and it's people with long-term chronic conditions.
And just before we even look at a bigger deep dive into this current product that you're developing, did you say at this beginning that you've already launched a product prior to this offering?
No. So the first product is the device called a Perchmeter, and that's for opticians to measure corneal thickness, and that's coming to market early in 2022, so early next year. The way it works at the moment is that most opticians are measuring how thick your cornea is, the cornea being the front of the eye. They use what's called an ultrasound probe. So they'll pull the eyelid back, put drops in the eye to anesthetize the eye, and then contact the eye with this probe. They do it half a dozen times to make the measurement. And that, from a patient point of view, isn't very nice, having this thing touching your eye. From the optician's point of view, it's quite a slow process, and that costs them time and therefore costs them money. And there's also the risk of disease transfer between patients. Now, it always was, the risk was things like CJD. But in this, I'll use the phrase post-COVID world, you don't want to touch patients' eyes and go on to the next one. Obviously, you're cleaning the instrument, but there's that risk you have residual contamination between one patient and the next. So a completely non-contacting device for making these measurements is very, very attractive. So our first device, the first product, is for opticians to measure corneal thickness, and that's coming to market, I say, early next year.
And is that funding? Have you raised the funding for that already, or is this part of this offering here?
this is what we're doing now. We did 2 smaller fundraisers last year. And the current fundraising, we went out looking for 1.8 million, hence the Cedars campaign. We actually hit that target on the first day. We were delighted to overfund straight away. We're now at about 2.3 million, but we're clearly overfunding, because there's quite a few things we're doing. With more investment, we can accelerate some of the long-term projects and add in a couple of others that complement what we're currently doing, particularly in the area of myopia treatment. And the prediction with myopia is there'll be over 1 billion people with that condition, with high myopia, by 2050. So again, back to these chronic global conditions that we're addressing.
Absolutely phenomenal, man. So, I mean, all I can say is like, you're moving forward rapidly, I think would be the one way of saying it. I mean, I loved it in the Cedars page where, it's very clearly it's broken down as Cedars do in terms of location, et cetera, your company number. So in terms of transparency, and already what you've already said is this is going in there. You've done 2 sort of minor rounds, and now you're on to this. This is your 3rd round of funding here. What I'd like to look now at is in terms of the business highlights, which is on the Cedars page. You've got 4 key business highlights there, Dan.
Yeah, how to expand on those. So the main thing is, because we use light to make the measurements, you can do measurements using light without contacting the thing you're measuring. So if you're measuring the eye, you can hold the machine. In our case, it sits about 1 inch from the eye, just shines light into the eye and collects the reflection. So it's totally non-contacting, totally pain-free, which from a patient point of view is a major advantage. So in optician surgery, you're not having your eye contacted. But in diabetes care, at the moment, people with diabetes measure their blood sugar very often several times per day. And it's quite an invasive process using conventionally a finger stick, whereby you take your finger, use a needle and puncture the finger, you draw some blood, put it on a test strip and make the measurement. And that's obviously quite painful when you do it. If you're out doing this before meals, out in a restaurant or with friends and things, it's quite embarrassing to do. It's painful when you stick the needle into your finger, and that process, that if you're doing it regularly, you cause calluses on the fingertips and nerve damage. It's quite a not pleasant process by any means. With our system, you've seen sort of the picture at the top of the screen there. It's rather like a pen type device that you just hold in front of the eye. You touch the top and the top will pop up. It will scan light through the eye and give you a reading on the screen straight away. So completely non-invasive, completely pain-free, and much nicer for the patient, much more comfortable for the patient. And for that reason, it means that people will test more regularly, therefore control their glucose levels more effectively, and therefore have better clinical outcomes. So it's a really important benefit as opposed to the finger stick techniques. Now, because the machine we're using is very novel, it's very innovative, we've got a large number of patents protecting it. We've got 9 patents now granted, 5 more filed in the last 9 months or so that are pending, and 1 more in draft. So I've got a large suite of patents there and international coverage there as well. So we're very, very keen to protect what we're doing to make sure when we come to market, some of the big players can't compete with what we're doing. I mentioned the first device coming to market next year is a device for opticians to measure corneal thickness. That's called a Perchmeter. Very interesting market, very large global market, worth something of the order of $1 billion per year. We already have a letter of intent from the UK's largest distributor, Birmingham Optical, and that's worth 6.75 million for the first 4,000 units over the first 4 years. So a lot of interest there in the market, and we're seeing that in this, again, the post-COVID world, though we don't contact the eye, a lot of interest in opticians and optometrists about make it much safer for their patients when making these measurements. So that's kind of the technology and what we're doing initially. The global markets are very, very large indeed. So I mentioned optometry, measuring corneal thickness, is a $1 billion market. Although it's $1 billion, it's still our smallest opportunity. The next largest one is diabetes glucose monitoring, so measuring glucose levels on a daily basis. That's a market that's worth currently about 14 billion per year and is growing at something like several % per year. So a large opportunity now and growing at a rapid rate. But it's the screening for diabetes one that's really quite exciting. So people don't really screen for diabetes now. You wait until someone has the condition, presents to their doctor, and then gets diagnosed, by which stage they've had sort of 5 or 10 years of elevated blood sugars damaging their body. We're looking with our system at a machine which is again non-contacting, so it can be used in a high street environment in a pharmacy or opticians, where the optician can measure the eye, give a result which says whether they think you're healthy, pre-diabetic or diabetic, and therefore you can react at an earlier stage the condition and therefore prevent yourself progressing to get the full stage of the disease. So it's very, very important in terms of preventing diabetes. And we estimate globally that market's worth around $20 billion per year. So very large opportunities, and again, global opportunities.
And just bring it back to the normal retail investor. I mean, it's really phenomenal what you're doing, and you really went through that, and that's really clear presentation there in terms of the business highlights. So thank you so much, Dan, for that. And I was just laughing to myself because it was like the disruptive pain free, like in that idea of you get the I'm such a chicken, Dan. It's like getting the needle pricked and the blood coming out. We've all been there, and and I also get that about your solution is whenever I go to Specsavers, and I know in the video, which we'll just look at in a moment, they have different things. So I really now begin to see what you're saying at the top of the Cedars page is these devices which are non-invasive. So Alan's not going to get his finger pricked anymore, and you're actually using the eye. Eye is like the old saying, the eye is the window into the soul. So I mean, what you're saying is the eye can look at the soul, but it can also tell us so much about what's going on inside our bodies as human beings. That's
absolutely that. Yeah, the eye is the window into the body, the soul as well as the physical body, and there are so many conditions that leave markers in the eye. So we're analysing the internals of the eye, and of course, the eye is designed, if that's the right word, to let light into it. So optical techniques are ideal for measuring what's going on inside the eye, and you can see these markers and detect, well, certainly diabetes. We know that Alzheimer's has markers in the eye too, cholesterol, Parkinson's disease, a whole range of things potentially you can do via the eye. So we do see from our first diabetes screening device, moving on from there to a range or a suite of products which measure a whole range of health parameters and tell you about how your body's behaving.
And then just moving on to the eye, and here we have one on screen at the moment. And I really would recommend all the talk funders and the Kickstarters to really come down and really, it is such an informative video. So much is packed into this video. Maybe there's a few things you might want to highlight in the video, Dan. There was one.
Yes, the video again. The system here shows the systemic aspects of the body, all the components of the body. You move the blood around the body, and that transfers to the eye. So things carried in the blood tend to end up in the eye. So that's marked for diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and the other things we mentioned. So by looking into the eye, you can detect a whole range of things. So we scan the corneal thickness for opticians, we look at the lens for markers of diabetes, we measure glucose levels in the anterior chamber as well. So a whole range of things you can see by just looking into the eye and looking at various parts of the eye for various markers. So at the moment we focus on the anterior chamber, so the bit at the front of the eye, but we're now moving back further into the eye. Okay. The technology is very innovative. We've got 15 patents covering it. Yeah. Here you can see the machine scanning a volunteer's eye.
That's a 15 patients there. Okay, that's it. That's 15 patents, and then this is AI. Yes, okay.
Yep. So the patents cover the engineering hardware, how we do certain things, and the measurement process itself. So you can see here on this video section how the machine just sits in front of the eye. And when it scans light through, it just takes light into the eye, back out, and replaces invasive techniques like finger sticks. So again, completely pain-free, non-invasive, and so much more comfortable than a device where you're sticking needles into your finger.
And this is one of the new products here.
So this is the first product called Perchmeter. So that's a device for opticians to measure corneal thickness. You can see there it sits in about an inch or so from the eye. You can see the picture of the eye on the screen and the alignment marks there. And you can see the two numbers on the screen. We tend to make 3 measurements of the corneal thickness. You can see that this person's cornea is 528, 535 microns thick. So you do 3 measurements, it then averages it and gives you the result. So this machine is as accurate as the existing technologies, is much cheaper than the larger desktop-based machines, and of course non-contacting and pain-free, so much nicer than the ultrasound handheld devices.
And then what you're saying is, it's the mobility of this instrument. Like I'm already thinking of if there is investors who are interested in investing in, like say, the ESG space, which is one of the biggest trends now in investing, and where you could offer this to say developing countries, etc.
Absolutely. The portability of this is important. So in the UK, I guess in the developed world, that becomes interesting in domiciliary care. So people in care homes who need their eyes tested, can't get out very easily. It means you can move the machine to them rather than them to the machine, which is a far better way of doing things. That's absolutely true that portable nature of the device works very well in the developed world. In the developing world, obviously you have traveling opticians, optometrists there going around visiting villages. The ability to carry a machine like this around with them to measure people in their own homes or locally is a very, very big advantage.
And then we just maybe that's fantastic. And just in terms of the video, we just missed some, like we can maybe talk in the backstory regarding your team, and we'll do a separate interview after this main interview. We're talking about your team.
I would love to. Just like to touch on now, though, the fact that we started Occuity in September of 2019, so just a fraction over 2 years old. And we've gone from two of us, myself, Robin Taylor, who founded the company, up to around 35 staff now. So very rapid growth and very, very strong team of experts, number of PhDs, but all people who are experts in medical measurements of various forms. And in particular, Danny Dulas, you can see on the screen now, he's our design director. He had 27 years work as a main board reporter at Apple in Cupertino. So he's very experienced in creating consumer products. You can see the look and feel of our machines here, very clean and very futuristic. And he's very excited about working in the medtech space now and using some of his expertise and his production knowledge to make medical devices that are far nicer perhaps. So many medical products look like medical products. Our devices are far more consumer looking and futuristic.
And then going on from that, the videos are also highlighting some of the really good, solid testimonials that are coming in as well.
Oh, absolutely. So we started a digital marketing campaign at the start of this year. Because of lockdown, we couldn't go to trade shows and things. We've now got around 10,000 followers, people with diabetes and their friends and family. And they're very, very excited about the way of measuring glucose without using needles. It's very, very important to them. And we have a number of testimonials there just saying how important that not using needles in your finger every day is to them.
And then this is highlighting what you mentioned earlier in terms of in the business highlights, which is on the Seeders page. These are the three areas that you're really targeting or you're looking at.
Absolutely. So the three very large markets, even the smallest one in ophthalmology is over $1 billion per year. Very, very attractive opportunity. When you get into diabetes, the sheer scale of the problem, sort of 460 million people with diabetes makes the opportunity very large. And the benefits you're creating very large as well. A lot of people are spending 5 times a day punching their finger with needles. Making their life better makes a big difference to them.
You see, even that, I mean, I had aunts who was diabetics, and that's what she had to do. So, like, okay, there, Alan can see a direct use for this right away in my own family, where my aunt could be used if she's a care visitor coming in, her or medical personnel coming in can do that in their own home without having to go out. It really is, in one sense, it's the new normal, whatever that's going to be, where people are going to be more cared for at home. People being able to come in and be able to do all these readings in-house rather than people having to travel. I take it that's one of the benefits of using your products.
Yeah, the portability is a big advantage. And again, it's the pain-free nature, the fact it's more accessible. And one of the issues with finger sticks for diabetes is that it's not nice to do. It's unpleasant, it's painful, it causes calluses. Because people don't test as much as they should. I think the government guidelines on testing, the actual testing that's done is around half the level it should be, because people don't like the pain and the inconvenience of doing it. So making it a comfortable process will increase the level of testing and therefore increase the benefits of the outcome.
And just on the video now is actually just examples of, again, using the product.
Yeah, so the one you just saw there, the glucose meter, it's probably worth touching on that. So I know it's kind of very futuristic, Men in Black kind of feel to it. The idea there is it's very compact. You can hold it in your pocket. You touch the top pops up, exposing the optical element, which allows you to scan the eye. And that then you just hold it, an inch or so away from the eye. It scans the result. If you can pause there. It instantly gives the result on the screen. So you see the 102 there, it gives you a glucose level reading on the screen with an arrow saying whether you're higher or lower than the previous result, which is important for your immediate reaction. Do you take more insulin? Do you take more sugar on board? But also it speaks wirelessly, or it will speak wirelessly to your mobile phone. And an app on there will allow you to graph your information over time. So if your blood sugars are perhaps drifting up over time, you'll know that. But also it can then send information remotely back to your diabetic nurse, who, if you're not testing enough, can let you know that you should be testing more regularly. If you are drifting out of control, you can then speak to your doctor, who can then change your treatment regime, perhaps more insulin or whatever else. It means you've got much more interaction with your doctor. So rather than going to see them every 6 months for a response and a change of regime, you can know instantly whether your body has changed and therefore needs to be corrected. So it's far more powerful and far more engaging with the clinical system, with the patient system.
And that's just fascinating what you're saying, Dan. One, first of all, just to assure all the talk funders and Seeders people watching this video, is like this is in production now. The funding's for this. This is your first real.
This is in R&D now. It's been in development now. We're looking at a few years. We'll look at 2025 for this device. The other devices come through sooner. So the Perchmeter next year, the screen device 2 years after that, and then this a little bit after that. Because there's a long way to go in terms of clinical trials and all those kind of requirements for regulatory approval. It's a long process of medical device. But the point with this is, and the reason we're crowdfunding, is that there are an awful lot of people with diabetes who are very, very interested in how they're controlling their blood glucose levels, and they want to be involved in something like this. And it's why I've got so many followers, very, very quickly via digital marketing. And rather than doing a straightforward fundraise via the angel networks and raising money from high net worth individuals alone, we wanted to broaden out the fundraising to more people, those with diabetes, their friends, their family, people whose lives have been touched by diabetes in some way. Give them a chance to be involved in Occuity now, become a shareholder, join us on this journey, see as the company grows, and then benefit personally when the devices come to market. So they've got some ownership of that product and that care system once they're using it themselves.
Well, amen to that, Dan. That sounds absolutely superb, friend. I mean, and I like, now I've been doing talk funding, so I interview people, and I can really see now how technology is really going to shape our lives. So, what you're saying is that it could be even hourly, daily monitoring using this device, and it empowers in one sense, it empowers the person using the device, but also it gives it a feedback loop, as you say, to the local GP, who probably has an alert system in place that if there was going to be an issue with the levels in terms of a diabetic, they get alerted, so then they can respond to the patient, etc. Is that sort of the gist of it?
Exactly that, yes. The problem at the moment is with fingersticks, because it hurts every time you do a test. If you're type 2 diabetic using perhaps tablets, you'll test once every couple of days. You don't really want to test more often than that because of the pain involved. If you're using insulin, which is 10% of type 2 diabetics and type 1s, you're measuring 4 or 5 times. And it's painful, so you don't really want to measure more often than that. A device like ours, like the Occuity Indigo, because it's completely pain-free, you can measure 10, 20 times a day. So if you just had a particularly carb-heavy meal, you can test them afterwards rather than just before and see how much your blood sugar's gone up, and therefore control your treatment regime better. If you're going out for a walk and you're burning carbs while you're doing that and your blood sugar's coming down, you can monitor while you're on that walk to make sure you're not going too low. It's far more granular information, far more detail, which means you can control your blood sugar and stay within that healthy band far more effectively. So the nice thing about our device is no consumables, there's no pain involved. There's no reason why you wouldn't test 10, 20 times a day to understand your body. We found in our clinical trials where we measure people who are type 2 who've had a meal, they're quite surprised how high their blood sugar goes and how long it stays up for a high level. With our machine, you can measure after eating, you can track when you're going high, you can track when your blood sugar is coming down again. That detailed information is far more useful in understanding your own body.
Fantastic. Just to assure all the talk funders and people watching this from Cedar Investors, we'll put all the links to. I take it it's a Facebook group you have, Dan?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, all the usual media.
We'll put all the social links for anybody watching this who wants to get involved with any aspect of your offerings. We'll have those links in the video description below. So it's superb, my friend.
Yeah. So this is Robin Taylor, our CTO, and the other co-founder, measuring a volunteer's eye. And you can see just how easy it is. You just hold it up to the patient's eye, and a matter of seconds later, you've got the result on the screen. Our intention is to sell in the UK first of all to a UK-based company, but broadening out from there very rapidly. Device here you can see it's provided in a very convenient box. So yeah, this is our main distributor in the UK, Birmingham Optical. They're the UK's largest independent distributor for ophthalmic instruments. We're signed up with letter of intent with those guys already. They're very, very keen on getting this device to market, and we're now starting to work with or talk to distributors in Europe, America, Australia, and other territories as well. So
I think Amanda was saying there was is it up to 4,000 sales in the video? Is that what you said?
Yep. So the letter of intent for 4,000 units over the first 4 years. So there's a definite need for this device and demand for it. And we're seeing already the compliance officers who are very key in the larger chains, who are very keen on making sure their patients are safe, are showing a lot of interest in a non-contacting device like ours, just to make sure their patients have no risk of being contaminated by the version of machines being used on a previous person, as you get with a contacting device.
And just up on screen, as I say, some of the clients who are Specsavers and Vision Express. And as you mentioned in a moment ago, I mean, this is a very sturdy box, etc., that it all comes in, that your device comes in.
Yeah, indeed. So the whole point here is that it's going to be used in the outside world, perhaps, being taken around in domiciliary care, using care homes in patients' homes. You want to make sure that it's secure and isn't getting dropped or damaged. So yeah, the box as well is a very secure item.
Fantastic. And I thought this was a really interesting one on the video on your Cedars page. This guy here is retired. Is he NHS investor or?
He's actually, been an angel investor for a while now. He's invested in, I think, 3 of our Occuity's rounds, all 3 of our rounds. Very, very keen on what we're doing. He's also a director of a CCG now, a hospital commissioning group. So he's involved there as well. So knows what the NHS needs. Is very, very keen on what we're doing. He loves the fact that what our machines are non-contacting and pain free. So he's been very, very supportive of Occuity, and is very, very keen to raise the profile of the company with the investor networks.
Well, there you go, folks. I mean, I think for me that ticks the last box on why you should be investing in with Occuity. If you have somebody of that stature working within the NHS on that level, who's sort of going, you know what, these are great products. This is a great company that's going to be rolling out quality products over the next 10 plus years, and I'm putting my money into that company. I mean, that in terms of validation, folks, I don't think you can get any better than that.
Absolutely. In fact, we also have a video on our website of an angel investor who's invested in Occuity, who has type 1 diabetes. So personally understands the discomfort of using finger sticks and the need for an invasive system. So people who know what we're doing and understand the benefits we bring are very keen on being involved.
And he does mention in the sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name. He was talking about it is the actual investment is hitting a few key things where investment is concerned. That it's patented, it's a disruptive technology, and there's a good return as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a couple of points there. So yes, the technology has been through clinical trials in various forms. So we've got data showing that the devices work in the way they need to. We've got a suite of patents protecting them. We're now building up market connections and market traction. So we're ready for first sales next year. And looking at an exit, we're looking in 4 or 5 years' time of going for an IPO. A lot of medtech companies go for trade sales to a large player in the market, a large incumbent player. We don't think that's right for Occuity. We've got 3 distinct market areas. So salami slicing the company to those 3 is an option, but we don't think that's the best way of actually maximizing value. Most companies in Europe that sell out via a trade sale get around 14 times earnings per share when they do so. You look at a listing on a main market like NASDAQ, you're likely to get something around the order of 30 times earnings per share. So that seems to be the best way of maximizing return to our investors.
And really, just here's another great source for potential talk funders and seeders, investors in Occuity. I mean, we'll put the link of the web page so you can of your website in as well. So it really explains it.
Thank you.
It's very well. Absolutely awesome, my friend. That's all I can say.
Yeah. No, it's very exciting. You start with an idea of doing something new and different. This is very new and different, and you never know quite whether people are going to think you're crazy or not. And you start speaking to clinicians, and they think, "Yep, we really want this." And you speak to academics in hospitals and universities who look at the technology and say, "Yes, we think this is going to work." And you collect your data, and it shows it's working. And you put the team around you, and they start moving it forwards. And each step of the way, you get more validation. And you get to the point you think, this is really going to fly. And then the market starts validating what you're doing. It's a very exciting thing to be involved with.
Well, it certainly has. The market really has validated. I can see it from the industry side of view. High level, very sophisticated investors are coming in, going, this is working. You've got patents in place. You get all those things of patented disruptive technology, good returns. I think really, instead of doing a backstory, we'll just really, I think, we've covered a lot in this main interview. I think what stood out for me, the other aspect that stood out to me regarding these products is the team that has developed these products. So maybe we'll just include this whole aspect. And normally I do a backstory, but we'll just include the team into this because these are high-end products, okay? Which is, there was a number of things. You had the guy who was in Apple, so they've got the whole. From a retailer perspective, I'm coming in from that angle in terms of, we all have Apple products. I'm using an Apple back. So I know about that, about how well designed that is. You've also got alluded to, you've got PhD Central in your office regarding people who are coming in from highly educated background. So can we just look at the team, in a whole, just mentioning sort of the key areas of your team, please?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned that myself and Robin Taylor founded Occuity. We're both as technical by background. My background's physics, then optics, so using light to make measurements. Robin's PhD is in biomedical engineering, so autonomous systems for performing operations on patients. So we're kind of the technical background of the team. Very early on, we were joined by two angel investors, Daniel Quirk and Mark Jenkins, both of whom have founded, grown, and exited from their own companies and done very well from doing that. Daniel in particular is in the medtech space, so understands what's required of a medtech company. We're also joined summer of last year by Woolley as our CFO. He's got many years experience and many success under his belt in terms of forming companies, growing them, and acting as CFO, has done 11 or so fundraisers and a number of successful exits as well. So he's got a strong background there. And of course, the other person on the board is Danny Dulias from California, and his background in Apple is superb. He's kind of influenced most of the Apple products that are out there at the moment. So very, very strong top team. We're rounded out by some experts in the medtech field. So our program manager, Derek Bean, has got a lot of experience in bringing medtech systems to market. We've got a large number of people in the team now with PhDs, so engineering expertise in optics, electronics, mechanics, software, all those kind of things. And the team's now being rounded out with more commercial people, so marketing experts, salespeople, and those sort of things. And of course, the regulatory side, if you make a medical device, quality and regulatory are vital. So we've now got a very strong regulatory team as well, consisting of about 4 people at the moment. So we've grown a lot in the last 2 years, and we're still growing very rapidly. We've put a team around us now who are experts in their own area and very, very good at what they do.
No, just in interviewing you, Dan, all I can sense is momentum. Like there's momentum here. It's not like some campaigns they interview, they're sort of not too sure what how it's going to go. Whereas no, we know where we're going, and we're going in that direction, and it's happening now. So I think in terms of investors looking at this video, to have that reassurance to say, look, we're moving forward regardless. We've got the product pipeline in place. We're doing everything we can. We've got a really great solid team behind us.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, the pace is the main thing about Occuity. We're moving at a very rapid rate now. And as we get more people on board, and so we've gone from 2 people up to about 35 now in the space of 2 years, with a large number of recruits planned over the next year, 18 months. We're growing still at the same kind of pace. And each time somebody new comes on board, the momentum carries on growing and growing. And you can see it's a very exciting thing. But we're looking at some very ambitious things. We're trying to become a company. We're addressing $30-odd billion markets in this next 3, 4, 5 years. And you don't get to do that unless you're growing very fast. So a lot of ambition in the company, and a lot of growth already.
Just returning to the Cedars page, and the link for that will be in the video description below, as will all the other links that we've been talking about in this fantastic interview, a very exciting interview. There's just like one aspect is just from an investor point of view, for maybe the more sophisticated investor, there you get tax relief. You're part of the EIS fund, etc.
Yeah, indeed. So as part of this funding round, we've closed a section or 2 sections already from angel investors who invested directly rather than via Cedars. We've already issued their chef certificates, and they've got their EIS 3 reports from HMRC. So as well as the advanced assurance from HMRC, they've actually signed off on the EIS 3 for the first sections of the round. So yeah, that's in place. And
again, to the retail investor, that's hard to come by. That takes a lot of work, time and work.
It's a great benefit as well. So you get, when you put the money in, you get a tax rebate on the money you put in the first instance. And again, when you exit, it's very tax advantageous. So it's a great scheme to be involved with.
Well, there's another massive tick in terms of confidence towards your company. Yeah. Dan, it has been a real pleasure to do this interview with you today. I really appreciate it. And please come back whenever you're maybe at the next stage of development. I would love to be doing another interview with you again. So I'd like to thank Dan from Occuity, who are live on Cedars, and all the links will be in the video description below. Thank you so much, my friend. It's been a really pleasure interviewing you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you too. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Bye-bye now, mate.
Bye-bye.